Hey, welcome back to Coaching for Impact. I must say it's been a pleasant time to be able to rest. I hope that you took a break for those who are able to go up country or to spend time with the family and the loved ones. And of course, more importantly, Happy New Year. My name is Newton Siele, your host at the Coaching for Impact. And with me
is Nadine Yocheng, and what a pleasure it is to also cross over with you into this new season and new year. So happy new year. All right.
Thank you. So we would like to say that this being the first podcast for the year, we want to make it different. Of course, we want to remind you that Doc is away. We're expecting her to be back this year. Yeah. But we thank you for the feedback so far, and we really had a wonderful opportunity in 2023. Today, we are going to do a 3-part series, and I know Pastor Dennis will explain why we are calling it a 3-part series. We are calling it Owning 2024. And it's important for you to be a part of these conversations, not just within this first one that we are having, but the other two that will also be really closely related. And why do we need to talk about owning 2024?
Yeah, because it's a new, it's like a clean slate you've been given. Not necessarily because of a season, because that depends also with your choice, how you choose it to be a new season, or you can carry what you had before and still come with it into this new year. So for me, I feel because it's a new slate, you can start again. I feel also you can be able to, what do we call, recalibrate your life and say, no, for this season, let me stop this and let me pick up this. So I feel like the reason we are doing this as 3-part is because we are trying to tackle interconnected topics, in that we are able to focus on a number of things. Are there resolutions still? Did you write your resolutions? How different are they from last year's? Or is it the same ones you keep carrying as you come in? What major goals do you have in life for this particular new season that you are entering in? So I think because of that, we feel interconnecting these particular topics is important for them also to be able to carry through and know what comes next.
And that's interesting. So take note that the first part of our conversation is just asking you whether you've left the shackles that needed to have been left in 2023. Are you still crossing over with the burdens? And then we will talk about focusing in terms of your objectives and whether indeed is it really important that you have resolutions, or you can just pick on one goal before we talk about whether you are prepared for the storms that will come. But let's go to the first topic, Pasi. And this is important because I think for most people, they never quite understand why do you need to make sure you're not carrying over unnecessary burdens. And I know you need to answer whether there are those that you need to carry. But what do you understand by leaving behind the shackles that need to be left behind in 2023 when you cross over to 2024?
Okay. I'll answer this question, but I'll pick it also from the scripture perspective, because scripture says that anything that weighs you down from running the race, please put it down. And as you said correctly, that there are burdens you can't lay down. I mean, family responsibilities, work responsibilities, your own welfare, like your life, how you live your life.
Black tax.
Yes. Yes, you cannot run away from that. But the reality is, there are things that weigh you down. There are things that literally stop you from achieving the person you are meant to achieve, to be at the end of the day. So these are the things we are saying. It is important for you to leave them back. Are they attitudes that I've carried through the seasons? Are they choices? Do I make bad choices? Do I always find myself making a bad choice? I mean, those are things you leave behind and change. Say this year, I'm going to change emotional balance in your life. I mean, how do you engage with your emotions? What is the relationship between you and your emotions? Is it positive, negative? So what do I drop in light of my emotions to then enable me to be able to cultivate better emotions in life? So the reason for this, it is because then it sets you up to be able to achieve something. It sets you up to be on a platform where you can say, I can develop a positive mental attitude towards this particular year and the new season I'm in, so that I may be able to achieve what I set out to achieve. So I feel that that's the reason we are talking about this.
And I couldn't agree more, even as we remind our audience. I like what you've mentioned about certain things that you need to drop. And what comes to mind for me is what we discussed last year, which is, for example, the bad habits. What are those bad habits that you have consistently carried forward and they've done nothing but damage?
Very true.
You know, these bad habits that you need to drop them like a hot potato, as we like to say.
yes,
What
yes.
are they? Have you been able to pick them? And I'd like you to maybe just highlight what are some of those bad habits that we can, tell our audience, if you're not cognizant, they're like red flags. If you don't drop those bad habits in 2024, then you will not be moving anywhere. Before we also talk about relationships and why there are certain relationships that need to be dropped for you to be able to really become focused and to achieve what you need to. Maybe let's start with the bad habits. What would you say are some of those bad habits that need to be dropped, for example, in 2024?
I think number one is procrastination. I mean, you already know what you're meant to do, but because you like doing things last minute, so you keep saying you have time. I have time, I'll do this. And by the time you realize that you need to be handing in what you're meant to do, you don't have actually time. So you find someone transniting, you're coming to work, you can't literally speak well to anyone around you. So I think for me, procrastination is one. I think number two is the assumption that there is always time. I think that's a deadly one. I mean, we all assume that I'm in this sport, I'll be young. Remember we talked about...
That you'll remain young
yeah,
forever.
I'll be here for quite some time. I'll stay here. I'm going to... Then you realize time, actually, you don't have it. I think the other one I can pick from the top of my head is, what do I put? Relationships. How do I cultivate relationships around me? Am I a person who speaks and don't care what comes out of my mouth? So I hurt everyone around me and everyone is avoiding me? Or am I the one who is so introverted and at times people can't tell what attitude you carry today and everyone is walking on eggshells around you because they don't know what they'll say that will trigger something, and So I feel like those are things that for me I feel are part of bad habits that we carry. The other one I think I can say is overindulging. I mean, everything that is done in excess, whether it's a good thing, it becomes harmful. So at times I feel then if that is the case, so how do I put the limits in place? What boundaries do I set for me? In light of even relationships, as we talk about these things, what boundaries when I come to maybe a drink after work? How do I know that this is the limit that I've set for myself? Because if you don't have controls over it, you'll always tend to grow the other. They normally say that anything that is not tended to tends to grow towards negativity.
And that's true. Maybe even picking on that, a lot of the young people have this philosophy of you only live once, but we've also seen that you may have consistently lived your 2023 overindulging and not even saving. And then you realize you're in 2024 and you're struggling, and yet you want to continue overindulging. And I think I like what you also talked about in terms of some of the bad habits that people have. And yes, procrastination is a bad habit. Everybody knows that it's a bad habit, but why do we keep crossing over to the new year and yet continuing to procrastinate? But if you look at it also, the complete opposite of procrastination is really having a focus. And a lot of people don't have this habit where they can sit down and say, these are my objectives. We've talked about vision boards in one of our podcasts, and we'd like to urge, of course, the audience that please go back and listen. You need to have a vision board. If you are going to move and drop that habit of procrastination, you have to develop new habits where you actually plan. And most people don't even plan. I want to pick back on something you've mentioned, which is about relationships. How can bad relationships weigh you down? And why do you need to be able to evaluate the relationships in your life to ask, is this beneficial? Is it actually helping me? Is it aligned to my vision? Of course, there are some, like we said, you can't drop. If you're married, you're married. So you can't drop your husband, you cannot drop your wife, you cannot drop your kids.
Yes.
But what are these relationships that you feel, for example, that people need to drop? And how do they evaluate to say that, yes, this one, by the way, is on the red. I need to move to the new year without this?
But I answered this question as you asked so well. I think at times when you look at bad company, there's normally a saying that goes that birds of a feather flock together. Now the reality is that in as much as I want to change my life will not be any different from like the people I flock and and walk around with. It is not gonna be any different from theirs. So at times we tend to say that this is only maybe work relationship, or this is only maybe after work relationship. But the reality is that every choice and everything we do and make in our lives has impact actually on all of our lives. You are getting? So I normally try to tell people that when you're picking friends, pick them with a toothpick. Don't grab. If you grab friends because we are friends, you're going to be in trouble. There are relationships you said you can't drop, but we have ability to change our mindset about those relationships. We have ability to try cultivate something different in those relationships. And remember, all of this goes back to you as an individual first, the choices you're making and the decisions you're making concerning those relationships, so that you don't blame everyone else. In that, even where everything is bad, there's always a chance that something good can come out of it, and you can be different in that particular.
The reason I'm laughing is because the other day I was watching the news, and I know this is very funny, but there's this news bulletin where people were arrested somewhere and they were taking shisha, right? And I'm sure you saw it, and I know it's very embarrassing to see somebody and a whole
And your
adult
family is
carrying,
with you.
yes, carrying shisha and being loaded onto a police van. But I'm just thinking in that context, if you're evaluating the friends that you've had in 2024, and I think it's important to put them on a weighing scale, and it's not being unfair, but just to say, look, in 2023, how did you contribute to my purpose? How did you contribute to my vision? Why are you on the side of the overindulgence? Because there are friends who will only call you when they want to take you, but not because it's an investment plan, but because it's a place where you're going to go and take shisha. And so I think it's important to ask, is this the kind of friend that I want to cross over with in 2024? And maybe to come to that again, Nadini, we were talking about time going very fast. And 2023 was really hard for many people.
Very true.
Is it then possible to actually quantify? Because we've talked about habits, we've talked about friendships that you need to drop. Can you actually be able to quantify how much somebody has cost you on the negative? Because I'm looking again and saying one of the things that you want to do in 2024, and we'll talk about this later, in terms of the plan, is I want to invest, I want to plan. We said our third part of our series will be talking about being prepared for the storms. But I want to be very clear that these things that I want to drop in 2024, how do I then determine that on my list I need to delete this? I need to press delete immediately before I can be able to move.
I think number one of the things is having a debrief with yourself. I think for me, I feel it is very crucial. At times we try fly through life and say, anyway, we are here. We'll make it to work, just whatever works. But the reality is that, Newton, at the end of the day, we all have that place of reflecting. And we all sit down and say, okay, so what did I achieve? And people tend to say they don't do that, but in real sense they do. Because assuming you are a person who takes advance at work, at the end of the month, it dawns on you that you don't have the money to carry you through there. So whichever way, we normally sit down and say, hey, what did I achieve? Whether we like it or not. The people around us also make us understand that you didn't achieve. They remind you, your spouse may be a thorn in your flesh, reminding you didn't achieve anything. This year, your kids will be out of school, or you don't have school fees. So there are things around us, Newton, that always remind us that there is a red light on in light of what you are doing.
By the way, for me, I normally put my vision board in the bathroom, and everybody, including my kids, get to see it. So it's such a constant reminder that when you've not done something, you can't even tick it actually.
Yeah, and they will remind you.
Yes.
In fact,
Yeah.
you'll do something.
You wrote this and
have written this. So, as I was saying, these things will always remind you about this. So, at the end of the day, as I was saying, when you have a conversation with yourself, you should always ask yourself, this friend that I've had for this long, what is it they have impacted my life with? If it's always that we go out, I'm the one buying drinks, then something is wrong with that relationship, because it's very, parasitic. Someone is sucking someone else's life.
They, as we said, they're not investing in the emotional bank account.
not-
They are always
They are
withdrawing.
always withdrawing. They are always withdrawing. So you always find this person is on the deficit side in your life. Now, this is a person to push out of your circle of influence. Remove them from that. Maybe they can be in your circle of concern. How is so and so doing? I've not seen them in 3 months. You're getting, then you drop a text. So there must be that, as you evaluate your friends, which new ones should I bring in? If you have this person at your place of work who's always meeting the deadlines, they are always handing in their work, they always seem to know what should be done. So the question is, should I have this one also in my circle? Should I bring this one in?
Or maybe you need to change completely your circle of friends.
That's true.
But even as we come to a conclusion, we've urged our audience that before we talk about your plans in 2024, you need to be very clear that you're not moving into 2024 with the shackles that you had in 2023. And I think we've identified 3 critical areas. One is, of course, do you have bad habits that you need to stop? Do you have relationships or friends that you also need to cut off? Right? Is there anything else that you feel, and even as you give your concluding remarks, that the people need to just click on delete before they move?
I think for me it's clear. Any baggage, for something to qualify to be a baggage, it is bothering you.
It's a burden.
It's a limp.
Yes.
And so anything that causes you to limp, cut it off. Because once you're limping and you're a soldier going out to face the world, you become a target.
And if you don't know, self-diagnose,
Very true.
self-reflect.
Yes, very true.
Okay. And so what would be your closing remarks?
I think my closing remark is this, that 2024 is a new chance. For us, it's a new chance for you out there. And it doesn't matter what you're going through. Someone told me that you can always restart life at any place in your life. So the reality is that that chance is given to you. And as we enter into this new year, remember, it is coming with bigger and much greater challenges than the previous year. That's the reality. It always seems like life graduates.
We will be talking about the storms. That's a very good preempt.
Yeah. So please delete any baggage. Let it go and start again.
I couldn't agree more. And for our audience, even as we wrap up on this first part of our series, remember what we are urging you is you cannot transition into 2024 if you still have your dead weight, if you still have your burdens, if you still have your toxic relationships. For some people, in fact, the dead weight could be past mistakes that you need to drop them behind. You cannot always hold yourself because of mistakes that you made in the past. So whatever it is, remember, you cannot transition and expect to succeed in 2024 if you still have your burdens and shackles and dead weight in 2024 with you. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
God bless you.